What's up, family? This is Winfred Burns. Listen, it's Financial Fridays on Saturday, and I didn't get a chance to do this yesterday, so I wanted to do it today because I promised to answer whatever questions you all put in the comments. So I had a couple of questions. I'm going to go ahead and knock those out. The first question that was submitted was: Is a 203K loan a good way to build um, an investment property portfolio? Um, that was submitted by brother Mark Davis. Probably should tag him. And my answer to that question is yes. So a 203 business 203 loan is. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to tag him since he asked the question. Okay. All right. So, so the answer to the question: Is a 203 loan a good way to build a investment portfolio? Eric Reed, sir, how are you? The answer to that question is yes. So a 203 K loan is a loan, an FHA, a type of FHA loan that you can finance the purchase and the rehab cost of any of a home that is older than 1 year. Typically, when you buy a home and you purchase a mortgage through a regular FHA program or through any other conventional or non-conventional loan, what you are doing is you are buying the mortgage or the loan based on the current shape or condition of the property. With the 203K loan, the difference is you are financing the rehab portion of it, and so there's some more flexibility there in that process. Okay, so what typically happens, which leads into the second question. The second question that was asked, and I'm going to answer both of you at the same time. Is how Alfred Baldwin asked the question: How do I use the equity in my home to rehab my home? So that was the second question that was asked. So normally what would happen is what Alfred is asking, which is you buy a home, you want to rehab it. So what you would do is you would go to a lender and either get a second mortgage, which would either be a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit, and take the equity. So for those who don't, let me say what equity. So let me finish and I'll tell you what equity is. Take the equity and you would use that amount to do the rehab. Now, when you buy a home, you're buying a home based upon the current value of the home. When you do a 203K loan, what you are doing is you have two options. So with the 203K loan, you get a loan based upon either the current value of the home, and that value, that percentage of the value of the home. So if that lender says we will own of the current value of the home. So if the lender says we will only lend to you 100% of the loan, 100% of the value of the property. So your home is worth $100,000. A lender will say, with your credit score and things, we can lend you up to $100,000 on this home, and that's it. With a 403K loan, you have the additional option of taking the loan out of 110% of the value after the rehab. So that's the difference. So you don't have that option when you do a regular purchase. Now, with some home equity loans, some financial institutions will let you go up to 110. Some will let you go up to 120%. But typically, if you want to get above that percentage, you have to have excellent credit. And I mean like 780 and up credit in order to usually qualify for a loan that's over a mortgage over 100% of the loan to value. The other option is, of course, if you were putting a bunch of cash down. But typically, when you buy a home, you're buying a home for like 100% of the current appraised value. Whereas with the 203K, again, it's the lesser of the current value or 110% of the value after the rehab. So that is the difference, okay? Again, so to the second question, if you just wanted to take the equity out of your home, you need to do a line of credit against the value of your home. So here's how, let's use the same example. Your home is worth $100,000. Between the mortgage that you have currently on that, you owe $80,000. That lender will tell you, based upon your credit score, they can only lend you up to 100% of the value of the home now, which would mean you can only borrow $20,000 to do your rehab. And you can do either a fixed loan or you can do a line of credit. The differences between a fixed loan and a line of credit are just what they are. A home equity line of credit, the rate is not attached to a balance because until it is used. So they give you $20,000. If you never use it, you never pay any interest, or you never pay anything unless there's an annual fee. But with a fixed loan, it's just like the current mortgage you have, where the month after or 45 days later, you have to start making payments on that $20,000 that you borrowed. So it's typically home equity lines of credit rates are lower than your fixed loans, your fixed home equity loans. But again, that's the difference. I hope I answered those that thoroughly. So is a 203K loan a good strategy? Yes, it is a very good strategy to build an investment portfolio. The loan is usually typically not the issue. It is the reason why, the typical problem that most people have is getting money for rehab costs, which is why this is good. Most people who don't know about 203K loans usually either tap into their savings or they tap into their 401Ks at retirement, and they use those to do something like that. Don't recommend it, but I've seen it work. I've seen it work successfully for people. But again, if you don't have to do that, then don't use it, which is why, again, I think 203K loans are, of course, sorry, that was my dad calling. I'll call him back. Next question. Isaac, I'm going to come back to your question. The next question that I received was, is it okay to not invest into my 401K during this pandemic? My answer to that, of course, is no. You want to continue to put money into your 401k even during this pandemic. My recommendation, I always tell people, is if your company, especially if your company is matching, don't leave free money on the table. I'm going to say it again. Don't leave free money on the table. So if your company says, we will match you, for example, we will match you dollar for dollar up until the first $5,000, then put $5,000 into your 401k for that year, so that your company will match what you put in. So that's a free $5,000. The only time you don't want to put money into your company 401k is if you know it's a bad company and it's not going to appreciate. At that point, no, I would not put money into my company's 401k, and I probably wouldn't work there either. So that was the other question. Isaac, you just asked, what's the best way to maximize your money in the pandemic? So the answer to that question is, to answer that question, I'd have to know what your goal is for your money. So I'm going to assume that you mean what's the best way to make more money during this pandemic. I would say if your goal long term is to make more money, to maximize your money, then the best thing to do is to invest. Right now, most companies, even good companies like your Walmarts, like your your Amazons, your Twitters, your Facebooks, your companies that are good companies, solid companies, they are undervalued right now because people are not spending. So do your research, find companies, when I say put money in, I'm saying put money in that you're not going to need next month, that you're not going to need next week, things like that. Money that you're okay letting go through the process of appreciating, because it's going to take, my honest opinion, it's going to take us at least a year to get to the place where where our consumer confidence is up, where we start to see stock market prices go up. But if you can think about it like this: if you can buy a shirt or a pair of pants that you know it normally costs you $250, if you can, and you think they're worth that, and you can go and buy that same pair of pants, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you can buy it for $50, in your mind, you know that it is a steal, that you are getting a good deal. It is the same thing with the stock. That's how you need to look at a stock when you buy a stock. I believe that this company is worth X amount of dollars per share. And so if I see it get below that, then I am willing to put my money there, knowing that it's going to at least get to that dollar amount. Okay? So think about it like that. Donovan Frazier: on average, how much do you need to start with to invest? $25. So there are apps like Robinhood. There are apps like Stash. I use Robinhood. Even if you have Cash App, you can buy stock through Cash App. Again, I am not, let me give this disclaimer so don't none of y'all come back. I am not endorsing any company. I'm not paid to endorse any company. I'm telling you what I use and what I see. I'm not telling you, so don't try to come back from me. But $25 to start to buy stock, okay? Yeah, you can and start buying. You can literally start buying stock. When I actually started, I'll tell y'all one of these days, the first time I was supposed to start and I didn't. But you start $25, open up your account, or go on to Cash App if you have Cash App. You can start every pay period buying 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 shares of something and just building your portfolio. For example, right now, I think, and I've put this up before, company like Ford, I think Ford is going to be fine, but they're trading low. They're trading low, so I'm buying Ford. I thought 2 years ago, when I first knew that the T-Mobile Sprint merger was I started buying shares of that and just building it up. So even if you can only buy a share of Ford stock right now is probably like $5. So if you've got $25, $50 a pay period, and you find a stock that is, $5, $10, then every pay period you take that $50 and you buy 5 shares. And if every 2 weeks you're buying 5, 10 shares of stock over the course of that year, so you buy 10. GM is trading very low. I buy GM too. So again, you buy 10 shares if you bought 10 shares a month for the next year, you will then at the end of the year have 120 shares of a stock. And you keep doing that. Okay? You keep doing that, and that's how you build a portfolio. Okay? Let's see. No problem. GM is trading well. They got some issues, but I think GM is going to be all right. So, you're welcome, Q. So those are all the questions that I had. Again, I committed to answering these questions I wanted to. So if you have any other questions, drop it in. Another thing about the 401k thing. So if you look on the question, I missed your question. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me back up. Can you get a loan for the upgrade as well as the mortgage when you are building your own home? So when you're building your own home, I'm not sure what upgrades you want to do then, because if you're building your own home, you're usually telling the person, the builder, what you want in. So if you're saying like, can you get a 203k loan when you're doing it? No. So a 203k loan has to, or even a home equity loan, typically have to be for a home that has been built for a year. So if you want a second mortgage or something like that, yeah, you typically can't do it on a brand new home. So you would get your whatever things you want to get done. You'd either have them put in, or what most people do because typically when you get a home built, a lot of the builders put they're expensive. Let me just say it. They're pretty expensive. And so what some people do is they'll get, like, for example, the base grade countertops or something like that. More so telling the builder you'll get other things. Yeah. So what most people do is they'll get the base grade countertops or something like that and go back and upgrade it later. But they'll either usually use their money for it, or they'll wait the year and do it then. So, but yeah, if you don't do it with the builder, then you have to wait for a year, just because that's just because we screwed it up when the banking industry mortgage industry had its bust. We typically screwed that up. It's Fidelity good? Fidelity is very good, yes. Fidelity, so if you want to start, if you're depending on what you're trying to trade and how much money you have, if you're able to start with like $500, $1,000, Fidelity's a very good platform to do that. Whereas like Robinhood and Stash, you're either doing like mutual funds or individual stocks. There are some more options on a platform like Fidelity. The difference is fees are usually different. So when you get into higher, not higher, but different kinds of companies and different kinds of accounts, or accounts that are managed by a person as opposed to like you self-managing, they are more fees typically. And then when you get to the high dollar amounts, so like the Michael Jordans and whoever manages their money, their fees are lower, but they're lower because they're bigger dollar amounts. So they might pay 1%, but it's 1% of $1 billion, as opposed to we might pay 3%, but it's 3% on $9,000. So you get the difference. The percentage is higher, but the dollar amount is lower. No problems, Shanice. Thank you for. So I think that's it. If y'all have any more questions, y'all know, let me know. I'll or inbox them to me, and then next Friday or next Saturday, I'll do another one and answer your questions. So, all right, I appreciate y'all. If you haven't hit the share button, hit the share button. Don't forget Tuesday 8 o'clock, Scoop Radio. We're not a radio show anymore, but the Scoop Show. You're gonna call me? Okay, that's cool. No problem. You're welcome, Isaac.